The second question. Guys? What's the answer? You want to give us the answer? 0.6. How did you get it?
Like
6 out of 10.
Yeah.
So elasticity of demand with respect to price is basically percentage change in quantity over percentage change in price. Now we know what the percentage change in quantity is. Is it this one? That's what demand. So that's demand apparently. So that's 6% over the price, 10% change. So that is here 10%. Now notice this percentage change in price. Yeah, that's how you read it. Percentage delta is change in price. Yeah, so that is 0.6. Now notice this. It says for every 10% rise in price, that's positive change. Demand falls by 6. So this is a negative 6%. Yeah, keep that in mind.
Minus.
And that's minus. But obviously, we are looking at the models of this, yeah? When you're comparing, we're looking at the implication of this result. So who wants to comment on the implication of this result? Elasticity being between 0 and 1. What's the meaning, implied result? Demand is inelastic because elasticity is less than 1 or higher than 0. Between 0 and 1 in other words. Yeah, go ahead.
I just got because sometimes it'll be like negative 5.6 or something.
Oh, that's a highly elastic value.
That's high elastic, right?
Yes.
Okay, because we just don't take in the negative value.
No. Negative value in it only is negative is because demand is downward sloping curve.
Okay.
So the slope, not the slope here, it's a change will usually confer a negative change in quantity. Yeah, rising prices lead to decline in quantities.
Okay, so it doesn't matter then if it's
no. It just take the absolute value.
We just say it's inelastic.
Yes,
okay.
Elastic or inelastic. Yeah,
right.
The sign matters for cross price elasticity and income elasticity.
Okay.
I will upload some practice materials on this topic that will be useful for your final exam. Some students did ask about this as well, so I'm going to upload. In fact, I was planning, but today some students asked. Right. Any questions? No questions. No more questions. That's brilliant. Let's move on then to the next question. So you have ABC in each of the following. You have to circle the one product that commands elastic demand. Yeah, that has high likelihood of elastic demand. So spend the next 3 minutes talking to the next person, and then I'll pick. So those who have had a chance to speak will not be picked. Those who haven't, then will be asked to answer. So go ahead, help each other, please.
It's a brand. It's just a brand.
The price increase, so what do we do? How much you buy salt when
Right. Now, Let's get started now. Do you want to answer the first question? 2A? Yes.
Petrol would be more likely to have elastic demand.
You mean all brands?
Yeah.
All brands. Give you reasoning?
Petrol is more expensive in general. I'm not sure. I don't know what Esso petrol is. So.
Okay. Esso is a brand of a petrol. Esso, Shell, B, for example, BP has a brand. Then yeah, this is just the branded petrol. So which one would have an elastic demand in that case?
Petrol, all brands.
All brands. Yeah. Okay. Let's hear someone from you, for example. What do you think? Is that correct answer?
Yeah, I think that's correct.
All brands will have a high elasticity. Okay. Wait a sec. What about you?
I'd say Esso petrol.
Esso petrol. Why?
Because they can go for like the other petrol brands if the prices rise for Esso.
Right. If the price rises for Esso, then there are substitutes. So you could go to another petrol brand, let's say Shell's brand, or BP has some brand petroleum, yeah? So all petroleum, all of the petroleum is not that elastic because petroleum is quite inelastically demanded. There is not much substitute for petrol, apart from electric cars consuming electric energy to drive. But then with Esso petrol raising the prices, you have other choices, right? You have Shell's or Sainsbury's has its own, or Tesco's petrol stations. You can go there as well. It's cheaper there, right? So the sensitivity to price changes in Esso petrol will be quite higher compared to others. So elasticity of Esso petrol as a result is higher compared to all brands. Yeah, makes sense now, guys? It is clear. So circle this now. Next one. Holidays abroad or bread commands high elasticity. Let's hear from you.
The holidays abroad.
Yes, why?
Because it's a luxury. It's not a necessity like bread.
Yeah, okay. It's not a necessity, right? Or is you saying it is a necessity?
No, it's not a necessity.
Okay, fine. Yeah, and also there's one thing, and also bread is also a necessity, right? So even if the price is rising, there we still inelastically demand them. Yes, and there is not much substitution because with holidays you may have substitutes, and also holidays are more expensive as well. Yeah, so it takes up. We have to fork out a large chunk of our budget usually, so out of our income, right? So to go to holidays when they are expensive, we would rather not go then. Right, so it's elastically demanded as a result. So these are kind of luxury. You can think of them as a luxury compared to bread. Yeah, only not everyone's income permits to go on holidays abroad. Yeah, so it's more like not a necessity, but luxury goods, and more luxury goods usually have high elasticity of demand. If everyone is happy with that, see, yeah, go ahead.
Salt.
Salt as elastic demand?
Yeah.
Why?
Because there's no other alternative like bread.
Yeah, so you want to say inelastic then?
Yeah.
Way around.
Oh, yeah, other way around, yeah. Sorry.
So it's like me typing it the wrong way around in the solution actually, I realize. So it's the other way around. So what is it then? Clothing?
Yeah.
So it's clothing then, right? There are two things here. Clothing has lots of substitutes. Of course, not necessarily the overall clothing, but you can still wear what you're wearing now, yeah? So you can keep it if the prices are up. While salt is a necessity. Even if the price goes up by 200%, it's still cheap. It's a small fraction of our income compared to clothing, where it's more expensive, means we don't actually tend to buy it. Makes sense? Yeah? So there are two things to look at, whether it's a necessity or whether the price takes out a big chunk out of our income expenditure on this, yeah? So salt is cheap already, and it's also a necessity, so it's inelastically demanded usually. So substitutes are usually the case, but I don't know what's substitute for clothing, overall clothing. What else can you wear apart from fabric, textile clothing? Back then it was possible to put on natural, what do you call it? Natural clothing. Big leaves maybe. All right, so read the question. Take 5 minutes. This is a little longer, but it's not a difficult question. 5 minutes maximum, please. Go ahead now. We are well ahead of time today. So feel comfortable, and we'll ask the students who haven't been asked yet to answer the question now.
Price.
told you 10 divided by 30. Yeah. So it's quantity to multiply by design. Yeah.
Just a quick announcement as well. Some students asked me what to read before the quiz. You need to read everything covering week 1 to week 6 because the quiz will be based on that. And where to read? Well, chapters plus many of these questions are very, very similar to what you do in the weekly quizzes. It's just a paraphrased version. So in the weekly quiz, you might see a question. What is asking you? What is, let's say, dead weight loss? Then A, B, C, D are answers. You pick one. But then in the actual quiz, you might see a question like dead weight loss is blank. Then A, B, C, D. So you see that's not much different apart from the setting. Yeah. So it's very similar, or in fact, it's just identical, right? So prepare for it accordingly then. So the prices, so now if you are doing this right now, this is basically 1, so P1 and Q1, this is 2. So these are new prices and new quantities, these two, and these are old prices and old quantities. So to rewrite this in a better order, so that's 16. P2 is the old quantity, new quantity price, and Q1 is now. Who doesn't know the price elasticity of demand formula for calculating price elasticity of demand using ARC method or midpoint method? Is everyone aware of it? Everyone knows it? There might be a question.
I'm not sure.
You are not sure, right? So I'm going to write it down here then. It's also in the actual problem set if you want to have a look. I didn't copy it here. So basically, price elasticity of demand is if it's an ARC method or midpoint method, then delta Q over mid Q over delta P over mid P, right? So now if you expand this delta Q will be Q2 minus Q1 over average of Q's. This will be P2 minus P1. So P2 is the new price, P1 is old price, and average of P's, the two P's.
10 divided by 4.
Hmm?
10 divided by 4.
Yeah, now we just need to do the first part, the top part, the quantity, right? So let's look at that. What's the answer to A? You can just tell me what it is, I'll write it. Let's hear from someone. Let's hear from that gentleman at the corner. Yes, go ahead. What's the answer to A?
10.25.
10.025? Is it correct, guys? Okay, let's test. Let's check. So we just need to find what the answer is to. So answer to this question. Answer to the quantity change, percentage change in quantity. So Q2 plus Q1 over 2. Yeah? Right, so that is quantity 2 is 35 minus 25 over average of the two, 35 plus 25 over 2.
60 divided by 2 is 30.
So you have now,
It's 10 divided
what you have is 10 over 30, 1/3.
0.33.
So that's, okay, 0.33, thank you. Where is my, can you, okay, here it is. 0.33. Now that's the answer to A. Next, please tell me the answer for the next one. Anyone? Everyone got the What's the answer to B? So that's P2 minus P1 over P2 plus P1 over 2. Notice this is the average of the two products. So P2 is 14 minus 16 over 14 plus 16 over 2. That gives us, what's the answer here, guys? Minus 2 over 15 and negative
0.13.
1, 0 point? Ah,
0.13.
thank you. Correct, guys?
Yes.
Yeah? Now, what is the price elasticity of demand? That's the C now. Price elasticity of demand is just this two, the ratio of the two.
Divide A.
Yeah. Divide one by the other one. Yeah. So remember the price elasticity of demand formula was, just to rewrite it here, is percentage change in Q over percentage change in P. And percentage change in Q is 0.33 from here. And the next one is this 0.13 and equals
Negative 0.25.
and
No, 2.5. So there's no 2.
yeah, I lost my cursor. Okay, here it is. It's gone. Sorry, thank you. So that's basically, let's do this because it's being recorded. Let's write it negative 2.5. Yeah. Thank you. Now, who wants to comment on this result? Apart from those who have already spoken or answered our question. Maybe you. Yeah, go ahead. What's the implication of minus 2.5?
It is price elastic.
Yeah, the demand for this good is price elastic, right? It's the value is greater than, in absolute terms, greater than 1. So it could be as some sort of a luxury product because that's a huge elasticity. So in terms of interpretation, how would you interpret this more formally in a textbook language? It's something that we mentioned as well in the lecture. Look at the ratio, percentage change to percentage change. What does it say? So 1% change, 1% change in price results in 2.5% reduction in quantity demanded, yeah? Or results in decline in the quantity demand by 2.5%. Make sense now? Yeah? It's a high, so you see the percentage change in price is lower than percentage change in quantity. So that's an elastic demand as a result, yeah? Because, so in this case, price changes by 1%, quantity demanded changes by, okay, here it is, by a larger value. Right, moving on, question 4 now. We are well ahead. But since you're not asking questions, we're moving on, yeah, with a lightning speed, So let's go ahead now. The following diagram shows two demand curves that cross at a price of P0. So look at the diagram, please. I'm gonna open this now, bring up this instead, so that everyone can see it. Is everyone able to read the text? So given the graph, can you please answer the questions? So spend the next 5 minutes on this, or maybe more if you want, we still have time, and answer all of it carefully. And notice this, when you are doing a graph example or graph question, it's best to draw the graph on your notes because that graph is confusing if you look at the traces of points, yeah, it's a bit confusing. The only thing here that's much more important, the most important is the blue line and the red line. Red and blue demand curve. The rest is just traces and indicators for the prices and quantities, yeah? And then try to answer the question. Go ahead now, guys. I'm gonna zoom this out a bit for you. Zoom this in a bit. Let's say enlarge it, Ayman. And I'm gonna delete this part because we don't need it. And bring this up a bit. Yes, that's better. Go ahead now, please. 5 minutes for this. Okay, what's this?
last question.
Okay, while everyone is doing it, I'll come.
Yeah, no worries.
Come. So let everyone carry on. If you don't have a question, I don't.
Yes.
Okay. For example, when you do negative, so the difference is negative 2 over 8 which is a midpoint. How come when you do this percentage change, is it not negative 2 by the fifth times 100?
You can put press on if you want, but
But then the value means when I did do that, the value is
elastic.
elasticity has percentage, so we don't usually.
Yeah, we don't do
multiply by
times 100.
percentage.
Okay,
Yeah.
we don't do times 100.
So that's
Elastic.
So then we're so in the instance, I never do. I
Yeah, you
never
see
do
what
that.
happens is that that's a good point.
That is false.
The formula? I'll show you something.
The formula is yeah.
It's a-
I just go inside.
Yeah.
Okay, the formula is here.
You see? This is percentage change, isn't it? And this is percentage change. So this percentage cancel out and
Okay, so
so 100% is this.
Oh yeah, 100, 100 and
Yeah,
this
yeah, this
cancels out.
is
Yeah,
cancel out.
yeah.
Because both of them are percentage.
Anyways, both of them by times 100 cancel out.
Yeah, this is
So they just
so it must be the case. I never thought of that.
That's true.
That's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's easy, we can even tell from here.
Yeah.
The two negative points.
So, so when we do it in the exam, we don't get mentioned.
No, because both is percentage change. Both of them is percentage. Denominator and numerator is cancel out. I'm 100% cancel
Yeah,
out.
100.
One more minute and we'll start talking. Right, let's start now. So the first question, curve D is inelastic and curve D2. So D1 is inelastic and curve D2 is elastic. What do you think? Is it true, false?
True.
True is true.
Interesting. Why is it true or why is it false? Somebody said false, somebody said true. A good time to argue now.
Yes, it is elastic.
So let's look at that.
I think it's true because for D2, the small percentage change in price results in a larger change in quantity demanded. Whereas in D1, like small percentage change in price is a very small percentage in quantity demanded.
Okay. There's quite subtle difference here in the answer, but that's acceptable answer, yes. How about others who said not true? Let's hear from you. Why is it not true? It says that.
I don't know.
You have the answers. You say it says that? Did you say that?
Oh,
Probably I didn't hear that.
false,
Sorry.
false.
False. Why is it false?
Because they're both elastic.
Both elastic. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Even it's wrong, try to participate in the discussion. This is how we learn.
I wrote true, bro.
So how about this side? You quiet, guys? False,
No,
true?
I was thinking they're both elastic.
D2 was elastic or D1?
Both.
Both are elastic. Okay.
I don't know.
Now, there was a special case in the lecture notes, remember? When we did the lecture, I said, only in straight line demand curve, elasticity is not constant. At sections, in some sections of the demand curve, elasticity is greater than 1. In some sections, elasticity is less than 1. As a result, we cannot really say one is elastic than another when you're looking at it. Elasticity is a relative term. In other words, elasticity refers to 2 points between price change, for example. Yeah? 2 points in the demand curve. So let's look at this now to get better understanding. Let's say this is the right middle point here. At this point, if you remember in the lecture notes, elasticity equal to 1 is equal to 1. Now, in this section where the prices are higher, elasticity is greater than 1 usually. And in this section here, elasticity is less than 1. And that happens only in straight line curve. So we cannot really say elasticity between them. So along the straight line curve, elasticity changes as we move from this section to this section, yeah? From this section to this section, yeah? And if the demand curve is something like this, it's a different story. It's not the same. Percentage change commands exactly the same change here. But in this case, percentage change here commands a different reaction compared to the percentage change, exactly percentage change here, and this reaction here, you see, on a straight line curve. So straight line curve, along straight line curve, elasticity is elastic initially. As you move down along the curve, this elasticity becomes inelastic or low value. So that's why it's false, yeah? And we can only refer to elasticity as an outcome of reaction of quantity change between 2 points when the price changes. Make sense now? Yeah? All right, so keep that in mind. Moving on now. There is an also numerical example, I think, on the lecture notes showing us, not numerical, it's just a description of it, but there will be quiz question on this about that. Hopefully you will be able to solve that. Now, how about the next one? Demand is more elastic between, that one is better. You see, demand is more elastic between P0 and P1, so it's referring to 2 points now. Along the curve D2 than along the curve D1. This is the right question to ask. So I'm going to move on now, move up. And who wants to answer it, please? Rather than saying demand as a whole is elastic or inelastic, it's between 2 points. Because it's straight line demand curve, yeah? Look at between 2 points. So demand is more elastic between P0 and P1 along D2 than along D1. Is this true or false? That's true, yes. Look at this now. Look at the first thing. So this percentage change in price is the same for both, right? So let's look at the red line first, which is on D2. So the change due to this change, there is a greater increase in quantity demanded along the D2 than along the D1, which is very tiny one, yeah? So that's true as a result. Makes sense now?
Yes.
So the elasticity refers to changes between 2 points, right? Next question now. The price elasticity of demand between P0 and P1 in the case of curve D2 is equal to that formula. Is this formula correct? So look at the graph. Is it false? Guys, why is it false?
You can't be Q2 minus Q0.
So let's look at along the D2, yeah?
It should be
So the P0 and P1 is the same for both, eh? But we're looking at Q2. Now the change in quantity is then this and this. So you have Q2, yes, correct, minus Q0, correct, over bit Q, correct, divided by P0 minus P1. Is this correct? This is where the error is. This has to be P1 minus P2, P0, because P1 is the new price and P0 is the old price. Makes sense now? So here it's correct. Q2 is the new quantity, Q0 is the old quantity, yeah? It's this part here where we need to change. This has to be P1 and this has to be 0. That's why it's false. Makes sense now? Otherwise, in this setting, you would end up having a positive price elasticity of demand. And that, with demand, it's always negative. Yeah, with demand, with its elasticity of price elasticity of demand is always negative. Now, did you understand this? Is the question easy to understand? When you read it, sometimes you get confused by looking at the graph, and the question graph is too sort of messy. If you do not have any question, I'm moving on now. For a given change in, so I'm going to do this now. I'm going to copy this because it's too messy to keep this question there. And move here. Now carefully look at it and answer, please. Carefully. It's an easier one, but you may confuse yourself if you don't be careful. Right. So what do you think? Is it true or false? This is false. Right, so percentage change again is the same. So this is the percentage change in price. But let's look at D1 first. D1 change is this. Yeah, that's tiny. Then this along the D2. Right, so it's the opposite apparently. So this is false. Yeah, opposite is true though. False. Is everyone happy with that answer? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? This is false. Right, Q5 now. Now you will have another 5 minutes for this. It's calculation related, and this is midpoint and everything. And I should tell you here, and hopefully once it's recorded, everyone else will hear it as well. A very similar question will be in the final exam to this one. And I would like you to pass in the first attempt. You don't want to come back in August to do receipt. You need to pass in the first attempt in January, so you need to prepare for it. That's why I'm preparing questions that are helpful preparation materials as well for the exam. So, 5 minutes, please. When it comes to numerical questions, you actually need to practice it rather than looking at it. It won't help you if you don't practice. You get your hands moving, please.
Oh my god. I'm getting minus things. I don't know, man. You
Oh,
go to
so I can set it up.
I don't like.
The first one is
What is price elasticity? Price elasticity. What's the definition there?
Price elastic demand. So demand is price elastic. So its responsiveness to price changes is price elastic, means price elastic. Right, so let's start now. Create a schedule. So I'm gonna create a schedule quickly here. This shouldn't be a problem for you guys. I will do that very quickly. Should we? Where's my? I lost the. Oh, here it is. I lost the cursor. So schedule has to be between 10. So let's start from 0, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. That's that 60, 70. So that 70 is redundant. Yeah, we don't need that. So right, and we need to now create a schedule. So these are the prices and these are the quantities. And remember, quantity is determined by this formula. So that's this formula here. Minus 20p times p. Now, I will now plug each of these prices onto here. And then work out what the quantities are. Now, do you have any question on this? Shouldn't be a trouble for you, right? So I'm going to plug this schedule of prices onto this. When the price is 0, the quantity demanded is 1,200, so that's 1,200. When the price is 10, when it's 10 here, 10 times 20 is 200. 1,200 take away 200 is 1,000.
Decreased by 200.
Yeah, so there's a decrease as the price is rising. That's the law of demand, yeah? So 20, plug it into here. That's 20, 20, 20 by 20, 400. So 1,200 minus 400 is 800. And that's 600, 600, that's 400, that's 200, and that's 0. Yeah, if you just plug in 60 here, that's 0, 60 here, that will make 1,200, 200, 1,200 minus 200, you get it. Get that now, yeah? That's it, that's the schedule. Next. You get 4 marks for doing that. Next, we need this schedule now to answer the question B. Now it says show the section of the demand curve where demand is price elastic, part of the demand curve. So we need to draw demand schedule. So that's 10 here, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. Starting with 0, you have in intervals of 200 quantity or units. So this is 1,000. So let's do this. So that's 1,200. 1,000. This is 800. That is this 6? So that's 200 here. 1,000. So this is 1,000. So this would be the. This would be 1,200 here. Right. Now, if I were to draw this, this looks like this. Right? Straight line. Yeah, I just connected the points. Quick sketch of this. Now, do you have any question on how to draw this? Yeah, it should be no problem for you. Yeah? Now, remember this is a straight line demand curve. So, in which part of demand curve, in which section of demand curve, the price elasticity is high or elastic? Top part, isn't it? So, the middle part is usually the one where you halfway through. So, it's this one here, right? At this point, which is this point here, elasticity is equal to 1. So, above this point, elasticity is greater than 1. So you just highlight this area in your paper, please. This area is the part where price elasticity is greater than 1. That's the answer. So the answer to this question basically was in the answer to the previous question, basically, right? Now, using the midpoint method, calculate price elasticity of demand if the price increases from 40 to 50 pounds. Right, so can you give me the answer, please? I'm going to show you how to do that quickly. Give me the answer for the for this.
I got 3.
3. Hold on to it, please. So the price changed from 40 to 50. So let's say this is 50 minus 40 over 50 plus 40 over 2. Now quantity change. Can you tell me please what's the new quantity at this price at 50? 200 at 50, yeah?
Yeah.
And minus the at 40? 400 over 200 plus 400 over 2, which is the average, yeah?
Yeah.
Now, that is what's coming out here. Minus 200 over 300 over, that is 10 minus 50 minus 40, that's 10 over, the average is 45 here. So the final answer is? Minus 3. Is it minus 3?
Yes.
That's the answer. You get 4 points for this answer as well if it was an exam. It's highly elastic, yeah? 1% increase in price leads to a 3% decrease in quantity demand. Now, last question. Should the firm raise the price if it wishes to increase the total revenue? No. Yes, no? Anyone? No? Why shouldn't they raise the price? Because it's elastically demanded. So higher prices mean lower quantities sold. It's 1% increase leads to a 3% decline already. Means that even a percentage increase in a price, the small increase in a price is leading to a large decrease in quantity demanded, right? So when the demand is price elastic, advice is don't raise the price. Yeah? When the demand is inelastic, advice is raise the price, yeah? To increase the total revenue. Makes sense now, guys? So the answer here is no. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to attend my office hours or email me, please. Wait, one second, I'm just going to stop it.